Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
6 bomb attacks in Baghdad kill at least 17 people. Israel returns the bodies of 91 Palestinian martyrs. And the UAE strips 7 dissidents of their citizenship. Mosaic World News from the Middle East begins now.
In the bloodiest attacks on the Iraqi capital in weeks, 6 bombings rocked Baghdad today, killing at least 17 people and wounding dozens.
Today's attacks broke the weeks of relative calm in Baghdad as the country is witnessing conflict inside the Iraqi government over a political crisis that threatens to fuel sectarian strife again. Ehud Barak reports from Baghdad.
The bustling residential neighborhood of Shula in the northwestern part of Baghdad was the hardest hit by a wave of bombings that also targeted the areas of Al-Ghazaliyah, Al-Amariya, Al-Yarmouk, Al-Zafraniya, and Al-Dura. As usual, booby-trapped vehicles and explosive devices claimed the lives of dozens of innocent people, and a state of emergency was declared at the hospitals in the Iraqi capital amid today's new wave of violence targeting civilians.
Around 20 to 25 were killed. He left the car in a busy area. People were in restaurants and taxis driving around, so many people were killed. God and the Prophet Muhammad do not condone this. How did they come over here if there is a checkpoint? How come the checkpoint didn't stop them? This is unacceptable, unacceptable.
The response of Nouri al-Maliki's government included a vow to maintain security and eliminate terrorism.
The security institutions have managed to foil other attacks and aborted plans by the masterminds of terrorism and the criminals. They protected the civilians' lives and their properties from attacks and imminent danger.
Once again, members of the ruling coalition resorted to rejecting the ongoing political crisis in the country.
Everyone has a responsibility to give concessions, even national benefits or electoral achievements, to protect the Iraqi people and Iraq's unity.
All the crises that appear on the Iraqi street were accompanied by bombings. Their purpose is to destabilize the security situation and to deepen the division between the political blocs.
Another bloody day passed through Baghdad, where the continuous political impasse allows for all forms of violence, tension, and counter-accusations. This could bring further deterioration of the security situation, which will continue as long as the political opponents fail to address the issue. Shafiq Abdul-Jabbar, Dubai TV, Baghdad.
The Palestinian Authority has received the remains of 91 Palestinian martyrs held by Israel for years in a cemetery in the Jordan Valley.
The remains were transferred from the Jordan Valley to Ramallah in Gaza. The remains of 12 martyrs arrived to Gaza amid a public ceremony attended by representatives of the various factions.
The Nasser al-Bous family went into a state of shock in the city of Nablus. Nasser, who was an active member of the Fatah movement and one of the founders of the Black Panthers group during the first Intifada, vanished in 1989. Over the past 23 years, Israel has denied it was holding him, but today, Israel is supposed to return his remains to his family.
When we asked the Palestinian Authority and Israel about him, they said they don't have him. So where is he? He is not a needle that can be easily lost. This has been a problem for us. We have put our trust in God, all praise to him, and hoped that he was still alive.
The family has lived with disappointments and the hope that their years of waiting could one day come to an end.
Our family has made a definite decision, which is to request a DNA test to make sure that he is our brother. Now, after 23 years, they want to give us a pile of remains. Whose remains are these?
In the early hours of the morning, the Palestinian Authority received the remains of 91 Palestinian martyrs, including 12 from the Gaza Strip. For years, the remains were nothing but a number in a mass grave inside Israel. Today, they are reclaiming their identities, and on their tombs, a story of life, revolution, and martyrdom will be written. The oldest remains belong to 7 martyrs who carried out the Savoy Hotel operation in Tel Aviv in 1975. However, they don't have any relatives in Palestine to claim their bodies. They will be buried along with 10 other martyrs in a memorial cemetery in Ramallah. The Palestinian Authority hopes to receive another wave of martyrs in a few weeks.
The second phase will be more complicated because it requires medical and technical procedures. At the beginning of the 1967 occupation, Israel committed immoral acts in the way it was burying martyrs of the Palestinian Revolution. It was a mass random burial, and Israel did not mark the bodies by name or by any other means.
The other remains belong to martyrs who carried out operations inside Israel during Al-Aqsa Intifada or the Second Intifada. This is the first such deal of this magnitude between the Palestinian Authority and Israel. Though it came very late, the martyrs get to reclaim their identity today. They have fallen for the sake of their nation, and they are finally being honored, publicly and officially.
After many postponed hearings, a United Arab Emirates court issued its final decision today, withdrawing the citizenship of 7 activists. Another Emirati court is looking into the case of blogger Ahmed Khalek, who is expected to be exiled to the Comoros Islands.
في أحدث تقرير لها حول حقوق الإنسان في دولة الإمارات العربية.
In its latest report on human rights in the United Arab Emirates, the Arabic Network for Human Rights Information warned the Emirati government of the consequences of its ongoing violations of human rights and the international treaties the Emirates is bound by. These treaties mandate governments respect freedom of speech and expression and freedom of political participation. They also prohibit forced deportations and the stripping of one's citizenship outside of a legal framework.
الجنسية خارج إطار القانون. وسلط التقرير الضوء على ترحيل المدون والناشط الحقوقي.
The report focused on the deportation of blogger and human rights activist Ahmed Khalek to the Comoros Islands after being detained for several days. The network considered the incident evidence that not only is the Emirates moving forward with its repressive policy and the suppression of freedoms, but it is also devising new ways to abuse dissidents and activists, since detaining and imprisoning them is no longer sufficient for the Emirates.
وقالت الشبكة العربية إن اعتقال عبد الخالق مجددا.
The Arab network said that arresting Abdel Khalek again indicates the Emirati government continues to ignore the problems of stateless persons and continues to abuse them rather than formulate a solution for their problems. The network's report said that Abdel Khalek is one of 5 activists who were arrested for several months in April of 2011. They were accused of insulting the rulers of the Emirates and were sentenced to 2 years in prison. They were later released through a presidential pardon.
الإمارات ثم أطلق سراحهم بعد فترة على خلفية عفو.
The network confirmed that Abdel Khalek has a good reputation because of his wide-ranging activities in defense of the rights of stateless and overall human rights in the Emirates, especially the right of self-expression and political participation. In this framework, media and legal reports indicated that in 2009, the Emirates paid $200 million to the Comoros Islands to issue Comorian citizenship to residents of the Emirates who do not have one, or to the stateless. Their numbers range between 10,000 and 100,000. Reports indicate this segment of the population is subject to persecution, abuse, and is deprived from citizenship rights. It is a chronic problem in the Emirates and several countries of the Persian Gulf.
وقالت التقارير إن هذه الطائفة من المواطنين تتعرض للاضطهاد والتنكيل والحرمان من حقوق.
The ruling regimes pour their anger on that segment of the population rather than granting them full citizenship rights and improving their situation. And amid the disagreements between members of the ruling family in the Emirates, Prince Hassan bin Zayed Al Mubarak Al Qubaisi vowed to take legal action against Abu Dhabi's crown prince and his family, Ajman's ruler and his wife, and all those who collaborated with them. He will take legal action through international courts, rights organizations, and the International Criminal Court to retrieve his money and properties. Hashel threatened to expose the truth through publishing houses around the world and on his 2 satellite channels, which he is establishing in the United States and Europe, if they do not give him his rights back.
Well, the Israeli Minister of Military Affairs, Ehud Barak, says the so-called Iranian threat is a sword on the neck of Israel. But despite the strong rhetoric, it seems that Tel Aviv is far from certain about a possible military option against Iran. Ibrahim Hosseini has more in this following report.
In one of his strongest statements on Iran, Ehud Barak claimed what he called the Iranian threat has reached a point that constitutes a sword on the neck of Israel. How this can be interpreted is of course subject to debate, but analysts were skeptical.
As for Barak declarations today, I'm not sure if we talk about a real threat or about another means to increase the pressure on America to act against Iran diplomatically or in another way.
Barak added that Israel is in the same position it was in prior to the 1967 war and felt that there was no choice but to act. But it appears that there's no consensus on this analogy.
The basic question today is the international community is more afraid of nuclear Iran or from the Israeli military option. I think the world is concerned more about the Israeli military option today. Obama's almost only concern today is the American election. He doesn't want to get into election with complications in the Middle East, with the rise of fuel prices. On the other hand, it needs the Jewish voice. It needs to confront the Republican critics.
The Israeli public appears to be in discord with the war rhetoric as well. No one appeared to have an appetite for a military option.
I think the military strikes is going to be not the solution.
So we need to pray and to ask for peace. To ask for Kadosh Baruch Hu to make peace. We don't need to fight.
Surely it can't be with the military solution.
Despite severe sanctions imposed by the US and its Western allies and the strong rhetoric coming out of Israel, Iran has insisted on its right to obtain nuclear energy. Iran maintains that its nuclear program is peaceful in nature. Many Israelis remain skeptical towards a military option against Iran despite strong rhetoric by the Israeli regime. Analysts do not see a military action in the future, and so for now all eyes are set on the upcoming talks in Moscow. Ibrahim Hosseini, Press TV, Jerusalem, Al-Quds.
نتابع نشرتنا إذ قتل 14 شخصا اليوم بينهم.
In Syria, 14 people were killed today, including 9 who died in the shelling of the city of Al-Qasir in Homs province. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, rockets fell on the city of Al-Houla as well. The local coordination committee said Syrian regime forces attempted to take over Al-Qasir and its surrounding villages. The Syrian National Council called on the International Observers delegation to quickly head to Al-Houla to end the shelling and protect the remaining civilians that are there after a wave of people fled the region.
الدخان الكثيف تصاعد من الحولة منطقة تلدو.
لم تفلح الضغوط الدولية في وقف العنف.
International pressure has not succeeded in ending the violence and the military operations, nor has it healed the region of Al-Houla, which witnessed a massacre last week that was condemned by the world. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights and the coordination committees and a number of activists reported the shelling was resumed Thursday morning on Al-Houla of Homs province, and that a boy died this morning in Tiltau after being shot by a sniper. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said people are fleeing the areas being shelled in fear of a new massacre and heading towards other towns in the region of Al-Houla. On the other hand, Syrian authorities released 500 detainees, saying they have no blood on their hands.
Specialized institutions released 500 people who were involved in the events that Syria has been witnessing since their hands were not stained with blood.
In the latest news of defections, a group of defectors formed the armored brigade of Khan Sheikhoun. They also burned a tank and captured a soldier who later saluted the Free Army. In Damascus and Aleppo, as well as in a large number of areas, people are on strike and shops are closed. On the other hand, there are attempts to urge or violently force people to open their shops. These young women did not hesitate to gather, rally, and protest to express their support. Politically, U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton sharply criticized Russia over its rejection of any UN intervention in Syria. She warned that Russia's policies may lead to a civil war in the country. For his part, the head of the opposition Syrian National Council, Burhan Galioun, rejected Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov's accusation that he is inciting civil war. Galioun called on Moscow to cooperate with the international community. In a conference in Istanbul, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said the massacres of the sort seen last weekend could plunge Syria into a catastrophic civil war.
The UN did not deploy in Syria just to bear witness to the slaughter of innocents. We are not there to play the role of passive observer to unspeakable atrocities.
The pressure and search for an exit from the Syrian crisis is ongoing. As for Houla, it continues to mourn its dead. On Thursday, it held a funeral for 2 of its dead amid angry chants.
Essam Abdullah,
BBC.
Details emerged today that security officials in Azerbaijan managed to thwart a major terror plot over the weekend in the capital Baku against the Eurovision Song Contest. 40 suspects have been arrested on suspicion of planning an attack on the concert hall where Eurovision was taking place. According to Azeri authorities, those in question purchased tickets to Eurovision with the aim of committing terrorist acts. They also intended to use car bombs to blow up the luxury hotels where the Israeli delegation was staying prior to the event. The Azeri government spent hundreds of millions of dollars securing the concert hall and other sites. Azeri security services have stopped a number of alleged terror plots in recent months, and authorities have pointed the finger at neighboring Iran. Illegal migrants have no place in Israel. That was the clear message from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu last night, who was speaking to an annual conference at Tel Aviv University's Institute for National Security Studies. The Prime Minister said that the deportation of this community will not happen in a stroke, but promised that Israel can and will expel them. Netanyahu laid out his policy, saying, first, Israel will stop migrants by completing the security fence in the south. Then there will be a process of expulsion, beginning with the southern Sudanese and progressing to other groups. Netanyahu conceded that international law makes deportation of migrants very difficult and called for restraint and responsibility from the residents of South Tel Aviv. He told the crowd that Israel must continue to respect human rights.
Former Foreign Ministry legal advisor Robbie Sable told IBA's Eli Wagalanter that when dealing with the illegal migrant issue, Israel must not lose sight of international law.
The legal obligation is something called technically non-refoulement. You cannot send somebody back to a country where there's a real danger that he'll be persecuted for his religious beliefs or his political position or his race or anything. So therefore, if it turns out that these people are fleeing because there's a real fear of their persecution, we can't send them back to that country. We don't have to accept them, and no country has to accept refugees. We've accepted, as other countries do, a certain number. Beyond a certain number, it becomes a burden, and Israel is not the only country to have this issue.
So what are Israel's possibilities now in dealing with these immigrants?
First of all, together with the United Nations High Commission of Refugees, we try and determine whether these people really are political refugees. In other words, they're fleeing because of persecution. It's sad, but if they're fleeing because of economic reasons, or because there's turmoil in the country, they can be returned to that country under international law. Only if there's a danger of them being persecuted can you not send them back. So what we try and do is verify in each particular case, is he an economic refugee, in which case he can be returned, or is he really a political refugee, in which case we cannot return them. If we cannot return them, we try and find some of them we settle in Israel, and some we try and find other countries that are willing to accept them. It's a laborious process. There's not all that many countries banging on our gates saying, yes, we want to accept poor African refugees, but we're trying to find them.
And if we end up kicking these people out, it's only going to result in a black eye for Israel in the world public opinion.
Yes, and we don't. We can refuse entry, and that's why we're building a fence, and as the countries do, and say anybody who wants to enter has to apply for a visa and a work visa, and he cannot enter illegally. Those who already have entered, we cannot send them back to a country where there's a danger to their lives because of their political reasons, and that is a problem.
The problem is that they're unemployed mostly, and a growing population sitting around all day doing nothing. It will inevitably lead to criminal activity. What choice does Israel have?
We have a dilemma, which other countries have now. If we provide them with employment, it means they won't be unemployed and they won't normally engage in criminal activities. So however, if we provide them with employment, this could serve as an attraction for other. And we're talking about enormous hundreds of thousands of people. So, well, Israel provides employment. So it's a Hobson's choice. We have a dilemma. But again, it's a dilemma all countries face. All reasonable democratic countries, totalitarian countries don't care. They can send them back. We don't. We respect international law.
The pursuit of corrupt officials and those who stole the country's wealth, as well as retribution for the martyrs' blood, were and remain the Egyptian people's most important demands since the January Revolution. For this reason, everyone is eagerly waiting for this Saturday, the day to unveil the verdict in the trial of the century, the trial of former President Hosni Mubarak and his two sons, in addition to his interior minister and senior aides. The following report takes us back to the night of February 11th, 2011, the night when Mubarak stepped down, and the subsequent proceedings of his trial.
The people's will brought him down. It was the mere beginning of his journey from the regime's rule to the judiciary's rule. Aboard this helicopter, Hosni Mubarak and his family left the presidential palace on February 11, 2011, and headed to Sharm el-Sheikh as a final destination. That was Mubarak's wish. However, the square wanted to punish Mubarak and his henchmen for the destruction and theft they were involved in, but most importantly, for the bloodshed they caused. As soon as the dust settled in the square on the Friday of victory, the crowds returned on the following Fridays to call for retribution. This prompted Mubarak to appear on April 20, 2011 on Al Arabiya channel to deny all the embezzlement accusations he and his family faced. The Egyptian Attorney General quickly responded to the statement by announcing Mubarak and his two sons will be interrogated. As the probe began, Mubarak faced a health crisis which caused his transfer to Sharm el-Sheikh hospital. He remained there until the Attorney General issued a decision on April 13th to imprison Mubarak for 15 days during the investigation. After the medical reports blocked a motion to move him to Tura prison, Mubarak was transferred to the International Medical Center and was remanded in custody. On May 24, 2011, the Attorney General decided to refer Mubarak, his two sons, and fugitive businessman Hussein Salem to the criminal court on charges of profiteering, exploiting and abusing power, and killing revolutionaries. On August 3rd, Egyptians were in awe in the face of a scene that astonished the world.
Mohammed Hosni al-Sayed Mubarak.
Sir, I am present.
You heard the accusations the public prosecution has charged you with. How do you respond?
I completely deny all of these accusations.
Mubarak absolutely denied all the charges he faced in the first session that was presided over by Judge Ahmed Rafat at the police academy. The session was aired live on television. The judge then decided to combine the trial of the killing of protesters that Mubarak is accused of to Al-Adli's case and end the televised broadcast of the proceedings. The trial of the century continued, with some sessions unraveling the evidence and others listening to the testimonies of the witnesses. Presiding Judge Rifat called on Field Marshal Tantawi, Lieutenant General Sami Anen, General Omar Suleiman, and Generals Mansour Asawi and Mahmoud Wagdi to testify in secret sessions. On their scheduled sessions, Suleiman, Asawi, and Wagdi gave their testimonies, while the session to hear Field Marshal Tantawi and Lieutenant General Anen was postponed for security reasons. On September 24th, Field Marshal Tantawi gave his testimony. That session was followed by calls for a change of court judges, which led the trial to be suspended. After a legal marathon, the Court of Appeals issued a decision on December 7th rejecting the calls to change court judges. The sessions were resumed on December 28th. The court heard the defense attorney's argument starting on January 3rd for 3 days and ended by calling for applying the maximum penalty on the defendants. On January 9th and 10th, civil plaintiffs' lawyers also demanded the harshest penalty. That was followed by the defense's arguments for an entire month. And after much commotion and the submission of testimonies, everyone is quietly waiting for a fair verdict.
The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible by grants from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the Wincoat Foundation, the Firedoll Foundation, and by support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news, read our blog, get transcripts of past shows, and more at linktv.org/mosaic. Airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories, world news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.